Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome to yet another interview special with Indian Boxering. My guest today needs very little, well, actually needs no introduction. She is from Canada, from uh, Western Canada, from British Columbia, and my guest is Michelle Yeadon. Michelle, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good, Michelle. Thank you so much. Michelle, your journey or Mephisto's boxes needs very little or no introduction. Significant contribution to the breed. Um, you know, this was started by Walter and Monica Pinsker, your mom and dad,
Yep.
in the year 1968. And over the years, some very significant dogs. Just to name a few, I know you bred about 150 champions. It's and still counting. Just a few. I know you started off with the fashion hint daughter, Milan's fashion hint, and I know that
Yep.
Walter and Monica Pinsker started in Ontario, the place that I'm
Yes.
from, and they moved to British Columbia later. Quite a journey, of a lot of famous dogs in the process. Mephisto's Vendetta, Rosen Cavalier, Guns N' Roses, quite a few dogs. I do have some interesting questions, and I'm sure people that are watching this will find a lot of value. But I want to actually start this all off from the beginning. I know that, and I've read this on your website, Do Mephisto's Boxes, that you learned to walk holding on to some famous dogs.
Yeah.
What are
Well,
your
that's what
What are
my
your
mom
early
that's what
memories?
my mom told me.
So, what are your early memories of growing up with boxes?
Oh boy. The early memories, because you're a kid, you love your dogs, right? I knew what my parents did, but I was the luckiest kid in the world because there were always puppies around.
Hmm.
Right? It was later on in life that I guess I really started to notice what my parents did, and I started to travel with my dad to the dog shows because my mom stayed home, of course, to do the whelping and the raising, and it was my dad that went and showed the dogs, and I mainly started going to dog shows just to help him. That
Hmm.
was my job, help him with the dogs, make him his coffee, you know, make him his
Right,
lunch,
right,
you know,
right.
and then it was actually another breeder that kind of talked me into going into junior handling.
Hmm.
I had absolutely no idea what I was doing the first
Hmm.
time I stepped in the ring,
Hmm.
and I think I got a fourth. And right away, then there was a little bit of camaraderie with other junior handlers and other kids, and
Hmm.
it started very simply. It
Right.
was a family hobby, right?
Mm.
Which I think a lot
Right.
of families, that's how it starts, right? They buy a dog,
Right.
they buy a pet, they go to a dog show, and with my parents, and the rest is history.
Right, right, right. Did you actually have? I'm sure going to shows. Did you have? Did Walter and Monica let you pick your mentors, or how did that happen? Did you actually? What is the role of mentors in helping you learn the ropes?
Well, obviously, my parents were my biggest mentors. That
Mm,
goes without saying. When I was a young teenager, I started to work an apprentice for an all breed handler and a Doberman breeder
hmm.
by the name of Mary White, which was Free Spirit Dobermans. And now she also breeds beautiful Salukis in the United States. Um, I would say it was Mary that taught me the most with my handling career. Because
Hmm.
again, I knew the boxers. I didn't know all the other breeds. So
Mm.
I worked with her for about 4 or so years and apprenticed under her. And after that, that's when I went out on my own.
Right. Um, I know that there would have been a point in your life, when you would have decided, okay, so I'm going to actually take this.
Hmm.
I'm going to take this as a full-time career. And I know you're a
Yep.
professional handler, licensed with both the American Kennel Club and the Canadian Kennel Club.
Yes.
Um, Now, at the point when you actually were at the crossroads on deciding whether to take this up full time or not,
Mhm.
was this a logical progression for you? Was this something which was, you didn't have to think much into getting into professional handling?
Um, Hold on, let me push Devlin off me. uh, um, you know, I did not plan on going out on my own as a handler as early as I did. But Mary wound up leaving the province,
Hmm.
and a couple of the dogs that she had been showing at the time, I just took over. I was in college at the time as well. And, at the beginning of college, I didn't know, it's like anybody when they're 19 years old, you don't know what you want to be, right? Even
Mm.
though I had always dreamed of being a professional handler, since I tell people this, I had to write an essay and it was in grade 4, and
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to be, was a professional
Right,
handler. But of
right.
course, not knowing all that entailed and the amount of
Hmm.
work it
Hmm.
takes, it's
Hmm.
easy to have dreams at that age. But,
Hmm.
while I was in school, I wasn't quite sure,
Hmm.
what I wanted to be. But very quickly after I'd gone to school for a bit, it was the dog shows. It was the dogs, and that's what,
Right.
yeah, what I would love to do.
Right. Now, again, I know I'm going to get into more details about handling. I know this is a lot of information that people would find useful. Um, but what are some of the skills that you felt you had, or what are some of the skills that one should have, before they decide to take that leap into professional handling?
Well, first off, you have to love the dogs. The dogs
Mm,
always have to come first. That just goes without saying. If you don't love animals, you cannot do this job.
mm.
Um, but saying all of that, a little bit of a business background, that won't hurt either. you
True,
know,
true,
True enough,
true.
right?
Yeah, agreed, absolutely. Um, I want to actually talk about, I know I can actually be talking about handling, it's in itself for the next few hours. I know I'm not going to take all that time from you, Michelle. I'm going to make sure that I ask you all the pertinent questions. But I want to actually start off with Mephisto's boxes. I know that it's a successful kennel. A lot of champions over the years, a lot of dogs that have contributed to the direction of the breed. A lot of legend of merits, a lot of dogs that have contributed both for which have changed the complexion of North American boxers. Um, Now, when you actually look back, what do you think? And again, I'm sure you asked this question to in maybe in different ways, but what do you think was the formula for success for Mephisto's kennels achieving all the notoriety or the success
For
or the formula for success?
Right. I'll speak for my parents here,
Hmm.
obviously, because they
Hmm.
started the kennel. And just having spoken to them all these years and all these, the stories, and they were my mentors, of course, as well. My mom and dad, they everything that they did in dogs, they always agreed upon. Always.
Hmm.
There was
Hmm.
never a time choices were made without discussing with the other, right? If there was a certain dog that, my dad wanted to breed to, and my mom was like, nah, I just don't see it, or I don't feel it, or anything like that, then they just simply did not do it. It was always a partnership, always.
Mm. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who is the head? Who is the head, and who is the heart?
Oh boy. Well, you know what? I would say my dad had the head and my mom had the heart. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All
In
right.
that.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. No, I always, I always, I feel, I actually, one of my earlier guests actually mentioned that it always helps when you do this as a partnership,
Mhm.
because one can play a devil's advocate to the other process. So
Yes.
let me ask you the same question. So who played the devil's advocate in this decision making process?
For myself,
No, for Mephisto's kennels between Walter and Monica.
yeah. Boy, I would probably say my mom. Yeah,
Okay,
I
okay,
would think
all right,
so. I would think so. Like
okay.
I had said earlier, my dad, he got to do, I guess, the more glamorous part of being the
Mm-hmm,
breeder because he got to travel. He was the
mm-hmm,
one that was showing the dogs. He was more the face out in public.
mm,
And it was
right.
my mom that, stayed home, that did the whelping, the raising, ran the kennel. So
Mm.
there were decades there that, yeah, my mom was rarely seen at dog shows unless it was a local dog show.
Right, right,
Right.
right, right. Um, I want to actually fast track it a few years. I know that Walter and Monica have taken a well-deserved retirement. I know
Mhm.
they're not actively breeding boxes, and you've
Yep.
taken on the mantle of carrying the torch.
Yep.
Um, but I want to actually take you back a few years. I know this you've been doing this for many years now. But when you took on the mantle, what was your thought process? What was your mindset when you took on the mantle? Was it something which was they had set the bar high? What was your thought
Yeah.
process in taking on the mantle?
Yeah. I want to firstly say as well that it was not expected for me to take over. It,
Hmm.
uh, some people thought, they assumed it was a must and that, my parents might have pressured me into that, but not for 1 second. For either my handling career or taking over the kennel, it
Mm,
when my husband Peter and I first got together about 25 years ago. Uh, Obviously, we got married, we moved in together, and then, there was no dog. Rosen Cavalier was, he was too old to bring to a
hmm,
different home, and it just wasn't fair because he was 10 at that time.
hmm,
And my parents did a breeding with another friend and great breeder, Karen Knox of Dorado Boxers. They did a breeding together where my parents got a puppy back.
hmm,
And I went, to my parents' house to evaluate this litter. And,
hmm,
we both at the time were like, okay, well, that's your pick. Then this is our pick. It's just what you do with, people that you've known for all these years. It's very simple. It's, evaluating boxer puppies to us is second nature, right?
hmm.
And I turned to my husband and said, "Oh, are you ready for a puppy?" And he was like, "What?" And which of course my mom and I knew this was happening, and then we just let him know it was happening too.
Hmm.
and I brought home a beautiful, flashy little brindle bitch, which is my favorite.
Hmm.
And then it kind of just started from there. And
Hmm.
I knew that I would continue, with Peter and continue the line. I knew that I could never breed uh, the amount as my parents did, because of course my mom was a
Hmm.
stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
So that was different. But of course, my career was a professional handler, or is a professional handler. And,
Hmm.
we're traveling all the time.
Hmm. Right,
And you know what? To have puppies, you're staying home for 8 weeks,
right.
or at least a good 3-4 weeks. And, thankfully your husband and now adult children help you. so
Mm, true, very true, very true.
so
I do want to. I do want to actually talk about Vienna and Savannah. I want to talk about this. Do have a question for you, but that comes later.
Mhm,
But I want to actually go back. I want to actually ask you about, you show multiple breeds.
mhm.
And I know this might be a very simple answer, or you might actually throw a curveball back at me. But what's your favorite breed to show?
is the Boxers.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. That's a politically correct answer?
yeah, it's in
Okay,
my
let me ask you
blood.
this.
It's in my
Okay,
blood
let me ask you this question. What's your second favorite breed to show?
to handle. So not necessarily to live with.
To handle, yes.
To handle. You know what? I'd probably say Doberman. So very
Mm,
similar, very
mhm,
similar. I enjoy, and there's so many breeds. I love golden retrievers. I love pugs. I love a lot more toy breeds. I'm showing more toy breeds. But the Boxers and the Dobermans, they're to handle them. It's more technical. Like
mhm.
you really have to know the anatomy of a dog to be able
Right.
to put down a Boxer and a Doberman well. And
Mm,
I like that. I like to put a dog together, and
mm,
it's both those breeds are a lot of work. It's
mhm,
I would say they're a pushy breed. Like you are
mm,
working every second when you're in the ring. It's very
mhm,
hands on.
mhm.
That still, even to this day, is what I enjoy. And you know, if I have a
Right.
good one, I have a lot of fun doing it
Mm.
still.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, Michelle, I know that in boxers, and I've heard this people say, I live in the East Coast, you live in the West Coast
Mhm.
of Canada,
Yeah.
but they also say there's an East Coast boxer and there's a West Coast boxer, right? There's a different style of boxers that exist even amongst North American style boxers. What is that?
They have said that, and I truly did believe that for a number of years.
Mm,
I don't think that is as much the case anymore. I would say in the past, the West Coast dogs might have been a bit smaller, a little more
mhm,
medium sized,
mhm,
while East Coast might have been a little taller, a little more leggy.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but like I said, I see that changing now, but I think it's because people don't necessarily stay in their backyard
mm.
when they're buying a dog or breeding to a dog because
Right,
you know of the wonders of frozen semen. uh,
right.
you know, you can breed to a dog from all over the world and
True.
obviously from decades prior.
True.
Yeah.
Agreed. No, absolutely, you're right. Um, Now, when it actually comes to showing dogs of different styles, and of course, I'm not going to. It's not a question about styles, but it's a question about the type of dogs, the type of handling styles. You've shown dogs. I know you did a stint in Japan. You know, you
Mhm.
showed dogs in Japan.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think a lot of people get to go and show dogs in different parts of the world. You got that opportunity.
Mhm.
How did that come about?
Yeah, it was a great experience. My parents sold Mephisto's Guns and Roses
Hmm.
to a gentleman in Japan. It was after I had campaigned, Buddy was his call name. I had
Hmm.
campaigned Buddy 2 years in a row in Canada. Um, and uh, it was hard. At the time, we had Rosencavalier, which was his father. And I had campaigned him 2 years prior. So I did father and son back to back for 4 years. And like anyone says, right? Great breeders, right? If you like a
Hmm.
dog, right? I'm taking it away from the dog show part, but as a breeder, you know, if you like a dog, look to the sire, right?
Hmm.
And so we had these two great stud dogs in the house, and as a family, we truly believed Rosencavalier was the better dog. So we decided, you know, to sell Guns N' Roses to Japan after, you know, it was not an easy decision because I love that dog.
Hmm.
You can't travel
Hmm.
with a dog for 2 years and not become amazingly bonded.
Right.
And then you know this gentleman approached my parents. My parents flew there originally before the sale because they wanted to see where our dog was going and the life he was going to lead.
Mhm. Mhm.
During that time, when Buddy went to Japan, and they started to campaign him right away with a great handler. And we had also discussed there were certain times and certain shows that they wanted me to fly there to show him as well. And
Okay.
one of those shows, there's some big shows. I can't remember, the name of the show,
Mhm.
but big shows in April,
Mhm.
with multiple specialties at the same time. And that's when I flew there to,
Mm.
show my boy again. So it was,
Okay.
a little bittersweet too, because I had to leave him again.
Right. Right.
And
Right. Right.
during that time, I showed for a couple other people as well, a golden, a toy poodle, a pug, just where I was needed. But I was brought there to show
Mm.
Buddy.
Right. Right.
Great
Right.
experience.
Uh,
Beautiful country.
Absolutely, for
Mhm.
sure. What's the difference? What are your fond memories? I know. Let me rephrase my question. So, in terms of handling styles, I've heard that there's a lot of animation. In when they show it in Japan. Show boxes in Japan. I've read this in a few books too. What is that they're talking about? Is it moved at a different pace? What is it? What is it? How is it different from the North American style of showing dogs?
I don't find it all that different, actually. I think, speaking as a handler myself,
Hmm.
you will see other handlers that are known for certain breeds, right? And when starting to show those breeds, those are the handlers that I watch and I learn from, right? Because
Hmm.
I look at them as top in that breed for the sport. And I truly believe, and I have witnessed that when I have gone to these other places, that uh, they handle, yeah, very similar to us in North America.
Mm.
Yeah, there's
Right.
no big difference.
Right.
Sometimes I think they might move the dogs a little too fast. Again,
Hmm.
that's personal preference, right?
Right.
And saying that, that's just us watching on the outside, and that's easy to
Mm.
do, right? You
True.
don't know
Very
what
true.
that handler is dealing with at the time. It's very easy to stand
Absolutely.
outside and critique somebody else.
Absolutely. Now, I want to actually know, thank you for that segue. My next question was going to be just that. What's on your mind when you actually enter the ring?
Enter the ring.
Hmm.
Uh, well, you just want the dog and you to give the best show that you can in those
Mm.
2.5 minutes that you're given.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right,
there.
right, right, right.
And with that goes, so much work. That's the hard part.
Mm.
You're putting all this
Mm.
work into this dog, and you have that small moment,
Hmm.
uh, to show yourself off.
Right, right, right. Do you actually get into, do you notice that you get into a zone, or do you have, maybe sometimes if Peter is watching you from ringside, he says, what was in your mind? What were you thinking? You were in a zone, you were by yourself. Is that a place you
Absolutely.
go into?
With certain dogs, yes, you and that dog get into a zone. And
Mm.
that's very important with certain dogs in particular. I like to
Mm.
be able to have my hands on that dog for a little bit before I go into the ring. Uh,
Mm.
and when I say get my hands on that dog, I mean my hands on that dog, just to stroke from their neck down their back to the tail, and it's almost a calming motion that you
Mm.
do with the boxers.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it goes back to how I said you mold them together.
Hmm.
And then they look to you, and you see it with a handler and a certain dog where it's poetry. It's
Mm.
perfect,
Right.
and it's those little moments that just, you there's no denying them. There are those moments where
Mm.
everything just clicks
Mm.
together perfectly.
Right, right. Very true. Very true. I want to ask you, I want to build on that, because I saw on your website and, one of your, actually, no, not on your website, I saw one of your interviews that you had done.
Mhm.
And you mentioned there the importance of conditioning a dog.
Hmm.
Conditioning a dog. Because you sometimes you campaign a dog for the top honors. It could be the top boxer or whatever the breed you vying for the top honors for the breed or for all breeds to put together. But when it talks about conditioning of a dog, I want to
Hmm.
actually ask you more about the mental conditioning part, right? I know because physical conditioning, people talk about, feeding the right food,
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. But what is the
Road
mental
work.
conditioning part?
Yeah. Um, as a breeder, like I said before, that right comes right from the beginning. I'm a
Mm,
very hands-on with my puppies.
mhm,
They're continuously touched and loved, and I'm lucky that I have other people in the house that do that as well.
mhm,
Yeah, my puppies are socialized right from the beginning. I don't typically take them out, uh, off the property before second shots. I like to be a little more wary of that. Um,
mhm,
but after that, it starts immediately just with pet walks. I'm a firm believer in, you do your lead breaking, you do your nice little pet walks. I'll stop for a minute or two, and you stack them and bait them, collar up, and then like good puppy, and then that's it. It's a pet walk again, right? You have to
right.
make it fun. And challenging right from the beginning. And that's, sometimes it's difficult if a dog has been sent to me that might not have had that as often,
Mhm,
right? If it was
mhm,
raised more kennel mentality, where they might not have gotten as much attention, right?
mhm,
As a puppy, some breeds are fine with that, some breeds are not. And
mm,
I don't think boxers are great with that. I think
mm,
they need more hands-on.
mm.
They need that work, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Otherwise,
True.
they get bored too.
Yeah, no, very
Mhm.
true, very true. About your mental template, your mental template, what you have in your mind to be the ideal boxer.
Mhm.
Um, when you have so many dogs in your kennel
Mhm.
that have been so successful, I want to talk about your mental template. How does do you is it fixed or does it keep evolving? Does it keep changing?
Mine. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I have definitely changed, I think, over the years with how I think and how I raise my dogs. Um, I'm the first one to say I don't love to have more than, I would say, 6 dogs
Mm,
at a time in my home, because all my dogs are still house pets, right?
mhm, mhm.
They are
Yep,
in.
yep.
I don't have a big kennel. I'm contacted all the time for people all over the world, and oh, they want to come, come to Mephisto Kennels, and they think they're going to come to my house, and I'm going to have 30, 40 dogs. That it's just
Mm,
not like that anymore, right?
right.
And again, might have been different in my parents' era because that was my mom's job, right?
Mm,
There's no way I can leave for 2 weeks on the road and have 30, 40
right.
dogs here, right?
True. True.
um,
True.
I would be long divorced, I think. if I if I tried to do that. um,
Right. Right.
and I and having said that, I enjoy that I'm not uh,
Mm,
working all the time. Like somebody that has a full-time kennel like that is,
mhm,
and never mind, dogs are, they're 24/7, 365
mm,
days a year. They just are.
right.
But
Right.
if you have less dogs, I truly believe you can give them more time.
True.
And
True.
for either mentally or physically to get a dog into
Hmm.
condition for the ring. I
True. True.
love how a lot of breeders, and not saying this is good or bad, a lot of breeders will retire their breeding bitches and
Hmm.
let them go into good homes.
Hmm.
I love my old dogs. I
Mm,
love my old
right,
dogs, and
right.
I, I couldn't,
Mm,
they're, but at that point they're trained. They no longer do anything to ruin your
mhm,
house. And so,
mm,
because I have two old girls here that are,
mm.
spayed
Yeah,
old
that was going
girls.
to be that was a question I had for the famous trip to New York. I did have that question for you
Mhm,
coming up, but before I get into that,
mhm,
um, I want to actually ask you this. Question is about evaluating puppies. You mentioned about the winning attitude. You
mhm,
pick the puppies. You actually grow them into the champions that they become.
mhm,
Um, you have an enviable task on your hands. You
mhm.
have those litters. You also, do you think like a handler or do you think like a breeder when you evaluate puppies?
Oh, breeder. It's just, you have to, how we started the conversation, that I was born and bred into dogs. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
just, it was bred into me. It just
Mm,
was, even when I wasn't paying attention, I guess you could say, when I was younger, but you listen, you still pick things up. Um,
mm,
and everything I do typically is, when it comes to evaluation of dogs, absolutely is as a breeder first.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. True. Um, you've seen the evolution of boxes, Michelle, over the period of time, right? The boxes have changed. Like, for example, you mentioned the divide or the perceived divide between the styles of boxes in the East Coast and the West Coast. That's just one example.
Mhm.
But boxes have changed over the time. I'm going to possibly date you here in saying this,
Okay.
but let's say starting from early 80s, 90s, the millennium, the
Yeah.
2010, and now.
Yeah.
The
Boy,
boxes, you've
you're
seen the
dating me.
evolution of boxes.
When you say it
uh,
like that, I'm like, oh boy. Um,
how do you see the evolution of boxes? How do you see what are some of the strengths that you have seen them grow in strength, and some of the falls that have crept into the breed? What are some of your observations in the evolution
yeah.
on that aspect?
Yeah. There's good and bad, obviously,
Mm,
right? Um, I find I find the dogs that you see nowadays in the ring, they excel. Well, everything is so amped up, I think, as well. The dogs will be in prime condition. They're road worked. They're fed the best foods. They get the best care. They have handlers as well. Being that boxers are a handler breed, they're handled to perfection. So in certain aspects like that, I think it has excelled. Um, in breeding practices, obviously, you have medicine. Now that we have our DNA tests, so health for health reasons, that has excelled as well. That's science. Again, brings me back to being able to uh, breed to some of these great old dogs that have been long dead, decades.
mhm,
Um, when it comes to the breed themselves, uh, I do, I see some faults and some things that we are missing and losing in
mhm,
boxers. I would say definitely, fronts are lacking. That
mhm,
goes without question, and that's not just one or two dogs. That is a large population of our breed. I
mhm,
find we're lacking an upper arm, which will make a straighter front. So
mhm,
again, lacking when it comes to moving for reach. I
mhm,
find they're unbalanced. A lot of boxers nowadays will have the straighter front and these huge swooping overangulated rears.
mhm,
So I find they're not balanced, right?
mhm, mhm,
Which is a word a lot of people will use. Sometimes dogs are balanced in fault, But I find being unbalanced is an issue. I find heads, you can still have, you come across some amazingly beautiful heads. But with that, typically for, a nice strong head is a nice strong bite. So with some of these bites not being as good as they should be, we might be getting a little bit weaker heads, a little weaker in foreface. I find, length of back. I think a lot of people are trying to, breed for a little bit shorter back. I think without a nice level top line, high tail set, just an all around, what I've always said is just a smooth dog, right? Where everything fits, right? Like it sounds simple, right? It sounds simple.
That's not.
Right? But it's not. So when you are my favorite way to grade puppies is moving. Just watch them move, right? If I go to anybody's house, I'm like, just, you can stack it. I can stack it. We can do that better than anybody else. Just put them on the ground and let them move. And that's very quickly how you'll find your pick puppies, right? Because they hold that picture and it stays smooth and it stays put together.
Right. True. Michelle, I know that I've interviewed. I've had the opportunity to actually interview people from different parts of the world. One aspect that people actually always point out is the style of handling. The extent of how handling has actually taken the dog to that level. North American style of handling is extremely has gone to a stage of, has gone into an art form.
Yes.
Now I want to actually talk about the mecca of boxers, and I want to talk about the American Boxer Club shows, where you had an opportunity to judge the futurity and also the top 20 as well. And you're a regular at these shows. For the benefit of people, that have not been there. I've not been there either, and I would love to go there sometime. What is the magic that happens at the ABC? Does this drive the direction of the breed, and if it does, how does it happen?
It's it obviously ABC is my favorite dog show of the year, right? It's a great place and it's exciting for us true boxer breeders because you are excited not only to bring what you're bringing because you're excited about your own breeding program, but I'm excited to go and see and hopefully come across the next great one. I think there's nothing more exciting than all of a sudden, 3-4 years later, there's a dog that wins. But I think to myself, I remember that beautiful, fawn puppy bitch in the 9 to 12 class, right? Which was Scarlet. And I remember that, right? Because I'm like, that's a pretty puppy. And you might not have said it to anybody else, but you remember, right? And that I think that's everybody that goes there. Never mind the camaraderie. All your friends are there. Your co-breeders are there. Everybody loves to end the day at the bar at ABC and talking dogs and having a good time. And it's from all continents. Right. And I just love that everybody is there for the love of the boxer. Yeah.
I know that you are the handler judge at the top 20. And what was your? I know you've judged quite a few shows. I know you've judged in Mexico. You've actually judged. I know this might be something in the horizon. As you decide to maybe call it. Transition into judging, just like your father. But how was your experience judging the top 20? And my follow-up question is, I saw the top 20 on television, and those dogs are amazing. The presentation is immaculate.
Yeah.
How easy or difficult? how is the choice made on the top winning dog on the top 20? What is that? How is that decision made?
It, first off, I was so excited when they asked me to judge top 20. And of course, it's a secret, right? You have to keep a secret for a year.
Of course.
And anybody that knows me, that's pretty hard for me to do. So, going into top 20, obviously, a lot of the top 20 dogs, right? Because I show and compete against them, right? So having said that, some of the dogs might have won past years, so they're not able to compete after they've won. But obviously that you are going to be getting 20 beautiful representatives of our breed, right? For them to be able to have qualified for that. When it comes to judging the boxer, you just, when it comes to judging, it's work. You do your job, and it's second nature to me to look at a boxer and judge it. It's just you always have and critical eye. I don't think that's a bad term, but you just do. You as a dog show, I'll look at any dog, obviously being an all breed handler, and I just have a critical eye. You can't help it. You can't take that away, right? But when it comes to top 20, you have to have that the trifecta of not only a beautiful specimen, top 20, they expect a good show as well. Yeah, and
true.
And the year that I judged, Macy won top 20, and it was all that. She and Michael were the absolute perfect team, and there was no denying them.
Right. You handled some famous dogs over the years, Michelle. And it would actually, I'm going to actually give you the enviable task of picking a few of them and talking about them. You can do the pick. I have a few, but I'm going to let you do that. The difficult task, like I stated, a few dogs.
Sure. Obviously, I'll keep them to boxers.
Sure.
Gosh, it is hard, so I will rattle off a few.
Okay.
I would say one of my favorite dogs that I campaigned was Mephisto's Rosen Cavalier. I truly believe he was the dog that put me on the map, as a handler, I would say. And I was, able to hold my own against a lot of the, top dogs in the country, in Canada as well as the United States. I followed that up with Guns N' Roses, which was the son. I've had the benefit of showing for other boxer breeders as well. I've shown some. Sorry, somebody came to the door.
Okay.
Yes. 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that.
No,
Boxers,
that's okay.
right?
No problem.
They're supposed to bark when somebody comes to the door.
Of course.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I've had the pleasure of handling some other boxer breeders' dogs. Karen Knox of Gerardo Boxers. I handled a spectacular brindle bitch for her, Roses and Chrome. Sissy was her name. I handled her son, Kang, beautiful fawn dog, High Hopes. Boy, see, that's hard. Obviously,
let me make it easy for you.
Yeah.
The dog which is right next to you, I know she did look at the camera, curious to see who you were talking to.
Yeah.
Tell us about the trip. Tell us about that trip to New York, Westminster.
With Devlin. Yeah. I feel like I should go back a bit, right? Because everybody know how she ended her career. When I I knew Devlin was I knew she was special. She was born via C-section. Um, and I was blessed with 3 beautiful, little brindle bitches. But Devlin, I was holding on to that name, Devlin, and Speak of the Devil for a while. I like to do that. I like to think of names, and you hold on to those names till you have the right puppy, till you have that special puppy. And I named Devlin on the drive home. That was her. Even though she, had a beautiful black brindle flashy sister, which some people would have, more gravitated to, being a bit flashier. And Devlin she was a little plainer. She didn't have tons of white, but she just, like they say, it's instinctual. She was the one. So I was lucky enough, I raised these pretty girls, and when it came time, which I think most of us, when I'm raising a litter and I have a puppy, I'm just dreaming of ABC. That's what I do. Every year I dream of hopefully the next exciting baby to bring to ABC. That's what I dream of. And she was she was in the 9 to 12 class. And I just, I was excited about her. And I knew what I was bringing. For us, for not only my parents and I and Mephisto, but, for the West Coast, for Canada. I was really proud. Right. And she was not, I had a brain slip. She was not futurity nominated. I forgot, right? During the excitement and, wife,
you
mother.
said it's a C-section, right? You said she was a C-section, so totally acceptable.
Right. Yeah. And you're busy. I am juggling, many things at a time. And, went to ABC, and so she had a few days off because she did not show in futurity, and she went second in her class to a equally beautiful brindle bitch. Our judge was Alberto Barrios, who I have admired. I admired all my life. And I knew in particular, and I was very excited to, bring a cute little brindle bitch to him, and was thrilled with my second place. And long story short, that's when Mrs. Bill Hart and Sergio Tenenbaum approached me for the possibility of owning Devlin together, which, being as excited as I was, it was so exciting that other people could see what I always saw, right? Because it's not always that way,
True.
And and that was, I went home with Devlin because she was still a baby, and I brought her back the year later to ABC, and she was a special at that point. And I flew actually with Devlin as a special, and I flew with Karen Knox's fawn boy Kang, and it was the host specialty before futurity started, and actually Shirley Bell was the judge. And you show all these boxers and you make all these cuts, and I made it down to the end with Kang, and I made it down with Devlin. And being that I am a handler, I of course stayed on my client's dog, right? Because that is what you should do as a handler, as a professional. But I was very lucky that my assistant and now one of my best friends, Jennifer, always accompanied me, and she showed Devlin, and she actually won the specialty, which was shocking because at that point, boxer people knew about Devlin, but she was not Devlin yet. and that was just
Mm.
kind of the beginning. And
Right.
it was at that show where, I handed Devlin to Diego,
Hmm.
and then the rest is really history. And
Sure.
if you talk about, I always say, it's the package, like a great dog and a great handler. You need that
Mm.
the perfect package. uh
Mm.
and that was that is what Diego and Devlin were.
Right.
They were
True.
just
True.
perfect together. Perfect
Right.
together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I know that this actually brings you makes you a little bit emotional. I can tell.
Mhm.
For sure. Uh, Now, I actually wanted to ask you. I want to ask you a few questions, and I know you've been extremely patient with me. I don't want to keep you for long. I just have a last few questions for you.
Sure.
Um, I'm going to actually make a statement here. So the statement I'm going to make here is a boxer today is better than the boxer 20 years back.
Mm,
Remember the evolution of boxers, Michelle?
yeah.
My dating you, 20 years, boxers 20 years back. If you had to talk for this statement or talk against this statement,
Mhm.
you can take a pick, whether you want to talk for or against the statement. What would you say? Would you say the boxer has improved now, or the golden period of boxers was 20 years back?
No, I think boxers were stronger 20 years ago.
Hmm. Okay. All right.
I
Fair
do.
enough.
I do.
Okay.
And you know what I find too, which I found the last number of years, and I'm sure most boxer people can agree with this, all the top winning boxers have been bitches,
Hmm.
right? Year and year, and and being as a breeder, the most important thing to any breeder are their bitches.
Hmm.
That's, if you don't have a good bitch, you know, go get one.
Right. Foundation of the kennel. Yeah.
That's
True.
right.
Very true.
Everybody knows, that's what I have in my house. It's bitches.
Hmm.
That's what lives with me. I will have dogs
Hmm.
on occasion, and
Hmm.
they come like when Romeo, of course. Then that was
The
one of those
jumping
dogs.
dog.
The jumping dog, my boy, my sweet boy. He That was one of the dogs I didn't get to mention as one of my favorites as well when we jumped
Hmm.
to Devlin.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
he of course was born and raised with my good friend Lori Travis and co-breeder,
Hmm.
and she did that work at the beginning, and then when it was time, that's when he came to me, and that's when I took over as my part as the handler, right? and and we had a blast for 2.5 years, but when it came for him, when retirement happened, then he went home. uh,
Hmm.
and that's what I think every dog should do after they are retired and they've had their careers. It's time for them to go home, right? And be a
Hmm.
couch potato like this
True.
chunky one
True.
here.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Michelle, I'm going to actually ask you to compress
Mhm.
all the knowledge that you have in handling. I know it's difficult, but I'm still going to ask you that question. Put it in a question for you. What are your handlings do and don'ts for all those aspiring handlers? Handling do's and don'ts. Do this and don't do this.
I think most of what I would say, it's before you even step in the ring, the the do's and the don'ts. All of Most of that work has to be done before you even step in the ring, which takes us back to a good dog, a great dog, the training, the conditioning. Uh, those are the do's and don'ts. And obviously, too, when you're in the ring, be a team. There's nothing better than a handler and a dog that respect and love each other and that put on a great show. On a great show. Yeah.
Mm,
I
right.
personally, I like soft hands. There's, if you've done your work before you go in the ring, there's no no reason to be, more than anything, but just, soft hands, respect the dog. Yeah.
True, true. No, valid, very valid points. There's a lot when you say that, there's a lot that you say in what you say. I want to talk about Vienna and Savannah, your daughters, the third generation of Mephisto's boxers moving into the future. What's your piece of advice to them, and what would you like for them to breed? They're going to carry on the mantle of Mephisto's boxers. 20 years down the line, what's the type of boxer you would like them to breed?
Again, I just want to say they have no pressure to continuing, just like I did. My parents didn't pressure me to continue, but if one or if both of them choose to do that, obviously Vienna is still involved in dog shows. She apprentices me when we travel, and at this point, I don't think I can do it without her anymore. What I'm thinking she's already done, right? Without it's a partnership as well, right? It's okay, Dev. It's, and again, like any mother, I just want them to be happy and do what they love. And if it happens to be dog shows, as a handler or as not as a handler, but if they choose to be breeders, it's just love what you do, and if you're going to do something, do it well. Do it well.
Right. Right. Your biggest contribution to the sport of dogs. What do you consider to be your biggest contribution
in dogs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I devoted my life to dogs, and not just boxers, to dogs, helping, my clients' breeding programs. I, personally about myself, I do try to be pleasant. I try to have a smile, right? Every day, some days are harder than others. But I still, to this day, I love what I do. I love what I do. You can't turn it off, right? I'm always thinking about it, just always. It might be, I still might be sitting there watching a program, but, all of a sudden something pops in my head and, it's hard for me to relax sometimes with that. But and I try to be helpful. I hope that anybody knows they can come up to me and approach me with questions, or if they need help. I love to talk about our breed in particular, our beautiful breed. And, I love to discuss and learn other breeds as well. I find that very interesting, right? Because there's certain dogs that have left an imprint in your brain all these decades. And it really is a small world when you start talking to people. And and you might, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yes, no, I've had, dinner with that person, or, and so I've been interviewed before with, and I jokingly say, it's a big dysfunctional family, dogs, but, which, all families have a little bit of dysfunction. But I truly do believe it is a family. It just, it really is. Every, Thursday unloading, there they are again. And hi, how are you?
Very true.
And you know what? Years can go by too, and you're, that excited to see somebody again, right? I haven't shown in the States for 2 years now because of COVID, and I am very excited to get across the border
to be crossing
again.
the border soon.
I am very excited, not only to bring some of my new stuff, right? I have a beautiful string of many different breeds coming down with me, but I can't wait to see my friends as well. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. I can't close this interview without you telling us about Peter. So your journey with Peter and how he's been a contributing factor to your success.
Yeah. I'm sure he thinks that on certain days too. How did I get how did I get here? Um, Peter, of course, did not. He was not raised in dogs like myself. He and I were introduced from a fellow dog person. One of my very good friends, Janine Starink. She has giant schnauzers, and she also was an air traffic controller that worked with Peter. And we were a bit of a fix-up at first, and we both, I don't know, at that time weren't as interested, right? And it was about a year later that we met again at a dinner, and just started going out, and everything went fast after that. 6 months later, engaged. 6 months later, married. 6 months later, I got pregnant with Vienna, and we brought, I think at that point we might have had 2 boxers.
Mhm.
And thankfully after that things slowed down a bit.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Very true.
And Peter, I couldn't have gotten luckier. I couldn't.
Mhm.
He supports me in this crazy life in every aspect. Again, just the same as my parents. Everything we do, we discuss, and we agree upon. We do everything as a family. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You can ask for anything more.
No,
Michelle, thank you so much for your time. It was
you're
a
most
pleasure.
welcome.
Any parting words before we conclude the session? Any piece of advice? Anything you want to share? It's not a question, but a comment rather
Okay.
to complete the
Well,
interview.
thank you again for asking me.
Welcome.
And I apologize it took so long. I can't apologize enough. But what do I want to say? I just I think if you love what you do, and it'll help you excel. You need to surround yourself with good people as well. That's very important. I have some amazing friends and co-breeders that I do business with that I trust implicitly. And I trust not only with my dogs and my bloodline, but with my children when they were little and stuff like that. And just keep your group small. I think is very important too. Again, it's a family. The people that I do business with in dogs are a part of my family, and they know that, and that's what I call them. And that's very important. And I truly don't believe you can live your lifetime and it still won't be enough, right? You devote your life to this world and this breed or any breed, and at least to me, I still don't think I will have enough time
Mhm.
to do what I want to do, and still you always think about the next one. You can't help it, right?
Right. True.
You just
Absolutely. For
you
sure.
can't. You always want the next great one. You just do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will actually end it there. So to the next
Okay.
great one.
The
Thank you
next
so much,
great one.
Michelle, for your time.
I'm
All
still
right.
trying. Thank you.
All right. Well, safe travels. Have a wonderful
Yes.
day. Thank you,
Happy New
everybody.
Year and all the very best to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.